The night was suffocatingly still, yet Lisa felt her skin prickle as though the air itself whispered warnings. She had been staring at the ceiling, restless, when the first sound came, a dull thud, faint but unnatural, beneath her floorboards. Her breath caught, her eyes darting to the darkened corners of the room. Lisa said, "No, it's just the pipes." Old houses groan. But even as the word slipped past her trembling lips, a dragging sound followed, long and deliberate, like nails scraping wood. She pressed her palm flat against the floor, heart pounding, and the vibration beneath her hand nearly made her scream. The sound was not random. It was deliberate, purposeful, alive. Fear poured through her veins, cold and paralyzing, yet she could not move. She whispered again, this time to herself, "There's something down there." Her voice cracked, frail and broken. A whisper echoed back, muffled, cruelly imitating her tone. "Something down here." She stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp, shadows slashing across the walls. In that instant, Lisa understood the truth. She was not alone in her home. Something was waiting, patient and hungry, beneath her floorboards. And it wanted her to know it had finally awakened. Lisa sat frozen, her breathing ragged as silence reclaimed the room. She pressed her back hard against the wall, the cold biting into her spine. The scratching was gone, yet its echo remained, a phantom sound gnawing at her sanity. She whispered, "It's quiet now. Too quiet." Her eyes darted to the broken lamp, its shattered glass glittering like tiny knives on the floor. Shadows still lingered, refusing to fade, moving in ways light should never allow. She reached out, fingers trembling, and touched the glass. A cut opened instantly, crimson spreading across her fingertip. She flinched, heart hammering, and hissed, "Damn it!" The sting was real, grounding her, but the silence pressed heavier. Her ears strained, desperate to catch another sound, even as dread begged her not to. She knew something waited beneath her, but it wasn't rushing. It was patient, and it wanted her fear to ripen. The night crept forward, every second dragging like a chain. Lisa forced herself to crawl toward her phone on the nightstand, shards crunching under her palm. She winced but pushed through, whispering, "Call someone. Anyone." She grabbed the phone, her reflection ghostly in the black screen before it lit up. Her hand shook as she scrolled through contacts, pausing at David's name. He was the rational one, always brushing off her fears. Lisa whispered, "He won't believe me." Yet the thought of his steady voice anchored her. The floor beneath her creaked softly, deliberate as a sigh. She froze, eyes flicking downward. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering loudly. Her blood iced. Whatever was below had heard her. The phone lay face down, screen flickering as Lisa dared not move. The silence roared, then came a slow, deliberate knock beneath the floorboards. Once. Twice. A pause, then 3 times in succession. Her stomach turned. Lisa said, "It's knocking back." Her whisper shook. She pressed her ear close to the wood, listening. From below came a faint chuckle, guttural and wet, vibrating through her bones. She bolted upright, heart clawing at her chest, her skin clammy. No voice could come from the foundation, yet it had. She staggered, whispering, "This isn't real." But her trembling body knew it was real. And it was close. Lisa stumbled back into her bed, clutching her pillow as if it could shield her. The air grew heavy, her lungs straining to breathe. A whisper coiled upward again, mimicking her voice perfectly. "This isn't real." Tears stung her eyes as she shook her head violently. Lisa shouted, "Stop it!" The sound was swallowed instantly, as if the room itself had consumed her words. The floorboards trembled, dust raining from the ceiling. She clamped her hands over her ears, rocking desperately. Yet still, the voice seeped through, curling into her mind like smoke. "Lisa, Lisa?" Her name, spoken with dreadful hunger, sealed her terror. The night stretched endlessly, every creak of the house gnawing at Lisa's nerves. She clutched the phone tighter, but her fingers refused to dial. David's voice lingered in her memory, calm and dismissive, always certain the world held rational answers. Lisa whispered, "He'll tell me I'm imagining things." Her chest rose sharply, each breath shallow and uneven. She thought of the nights alone since her mother's death, the empty silence pressing in like a suffocating blanket. Her mother had warned her once, her voice fragile with age, "This house remembers more than it should." Lisa blinked away the memory, shaking her head. She was just sick, Lisa told herself, though doubt dug deep into her gut. Another vibration pulsed through the floorboards, faint but steady, like a heartbeat beneath her feet. Lisa curled her toes instinctively, as though to shield herself. She whispered into the quiet, "If I call David, at least I won't be alone." Yet she knew the truth. She already wasn't. Something else was here. Lisa finally pressed the call button, her thumb trembling as the dial tone buzzed like a blade against silence. She whispered, "Please pick up, David." Each ring dragged longer, her pulse racing with it. Then his voice arrived, groggy, indifferent. "David," said Lisa, "it's after midnight." Relief mixed with frustration, her voice cracking. Lisa said, "Something's under my floor. It's not the house." It spoke to me. Silence followed, heavy, judgmental. Then David sighed, sharp and annoyed. "David," said Lisa, "you've been under too much stress. Grief does strange things." Her throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. Lisa said, "I know what I heard. I'm not losing my mind." But as she spoke, another sound echoed beneath her, soft, scratching, then a mocking laugh. Her blood iced. David's voice cut through, still logical. Dave said, "It's probably rats, Lisa. You need rest." Her hand shook so violently the phone nearly slipped. She knew he didn't believe her. David's voice continued, his tone calm but laced with irritation. David said, "You're projecting your fears onto this place. Remember what your therapist said, your trauma's feeding into your imagination." Lisa shook her head violently, whispering, "No, this is different. This is real." Her voice cracked, heavy with desperation. David's exhale hissed through the speaker, the sound almost mocking. Then came the voice beneath her floor again, repeating her words in a distorted imitation. "This is real." Lisa dropped the phone, her heart screaming louder than her voice. She clutched her temples, trying to block the sound, but it seeped through the marrow of her bones. David's muffled voice echoed from the fallen phone, frustrated. David said, "Lisa, listen to me. Stay calm." Her lips trembled, words stumbling out. Lisa said, "It's listening. It's mocking me." For the first time, doubt wavered in David's voice, a subtle crack in his certainty. The voice beneath the floor faded into silence, leaving the room soaked in dread. Lisa gasped for air, her body trembling uncontrollably. She whispered, "It knows my voice. It wants me to hear it." David's tone sharpened, the first edge of fear cutting through his reason. David said, "Lisa, are you sure it's not a neighbor?" Or, the line crackled, his voice glitching into static. Lisa froze, clutching the phone, whispering, "David, can you hear me?" The static deepened, turning into a low rumble, and from it a warped echo of her own voice slithered. "Lisa!" She dropped the phone instantly, watching it flicker with unnatural light. Her chest burned, tears cutting hot tracks down her cheeks. Lisa whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." The silence that followed was worse than the voice. It was an expectant quiet, as though something waited for her next move. Lisa staggered to her feet, her body weak, her breath ragged. The house felt alive, every board groaning under unseen weights. She whispered, "I can't stay here tonight." But even as she reached for her bag, she froze. The front door rattled violently, though no wind stirred outside. She crept forward, step by step, her heartbeat deafening in her ears. The doorknob twisted once, then stilled. Silence. Her skin crawled. She whispered, "Someone's here." The whisper below the floorboards returned, cruelly imitating her in mocking tones. "Someone's here." Her knees buckled, and she clutched the wall for support. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but her legs refused to move. She knew the truth. It wasn't outside her door. It was beneath her feet, and it would never let her leave so easily. Lisa wandered through her hallway, clutching the wall as though it might hold her upright. The floorboards groaned under her weight, each sound echoing back with a delay, like footsteps mimicking hers. Her breath trembled, her lips whispering, "You're not real, you're not here." Yet the words carried no comfort, only fed the silence that pressed in heavier. From the kitchen, a faint rattle echoed, metal against metal. Her body stiffened. She whispered, "No one else is here." Slowly, she crept closer, every nerve screaming to turn back. The kitchen light flickered weakly, throwing shadows across broken tile. A chair scraped suddenly across the floor, moving without touch. Lisa gasped, hand flying to her mouth. She heard her mother's voice echo faintly, impossibly. From the darkness, "It's always been waiting." Tears burned her eyes. She stumbled back, whispering, "Stop it, stop using her voice." But the shadows only deepened, swallowing her words. Lisa stumbled into the kitchen, gripping the counter edge, her knuckles white. The overhead bulb buzzed, flickering in stuttering intervals. She whispered, "Show yourself." Her words came thin, brittle. The air thickened, the metallic scent of rust cutting her throat. She blinked hard, then gasped. On the wall, above the sink, faint scratches appeared, forming lines. She stepped closer, trembling, as they etched deeper. The letters spelled her name, Lisa. Her breath left her in a shudder, and she whispered, "No, no, this isn't happening." A laugh, wet and guttural, seeped from beneath the floor, vibrating the tiles under her feet. The letters dripped dark, crimson-like streaks spreading from the grooves. She staggered back, colliding with the refrigerator, whispering frantically, "It knows me. It knows who I am." Her knees shook, threatening collapse. Lisa backed into the hallway, dragging her body along the wall, chest heaving. Her phone buzzed faintly on the floor, still connected. She snatched it up, David's voice crackling through. David said, "Lisa, talk to me. Are you safe?" She cried, "Safe? It's writing my name." Her voice splintered with panic. David's tone faltered, but he forced reason. David said, "It's your mind playing tricks. Trauma makes the world bleed into what you fear." Lisa shook her head, pressing the phone tight. Lisa said, "No, I saw it. I felt it." Her sobs echoed through the line. The floor beneath her rumbled, vibrations climbing her legs. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "It's moving closer." A shadow crept under the doorway, long and skeletal, reaching toward her feet. Lisa bolted to her bedroom, slamming the door shut. She pressed her back against it, chest heaving. She whispered, "Stay out. Stay out." From the phone, David's voice cracked through static. David said, "Lisa, lock your windows, call the police." She laughed bitterly, breathless. Lisa said, "Police won't help. How do you arrest something under the floor?" A sharp knock came from beneath the boards, 3 times, deliberate. She clamped a hand over her mouth, muffling a sob. David's voice hardened, almost desperate now. David said, "You need help. I'll come over." Lisa shook her head violently, whispering, Don't come here. It wants me, not you." Tears burned down her cheeks, dripping onto her shaking hands. The air turned heavy, pressing Lisa deeper into the floor, as if gravity had doubled. The boards beneath her quivered, dust rising in faint streams. A whisper rose through the cracks, mocking in perfect mimicry, "Not you, not you." Lisa sobbed, curling tighter, pressing her forehead to her knees. David's voice was faint now, broken by static. David said, "Lisa, hold on, I'm coming." The line cut abruptly, silence devouring his words. Lisa's eyes darted to the phone. The screen flickered, then died. Her chest heaved in panic. She whispered, "No, please." The silence pressed harder, suffocating. A faint handprint, long and skeletal, pressed upward from beneath the boards beside her. Her scream cracked into the darkness. The silence stretched unbearably until a sharp crack split the floor. Lisa flinched, scrambling backward, her body pressed against the wall. She whispered, "Please, stop." The boards trembled again, dust raining in thin streams. A voice slithered upward, low and taunting. "Lisa." Her chest heaved as her eyes widened, terror gluing her to the spot. The boards beneath her bed warped upward, wood bending as though something pushed from below. Lisa whispered, "No, you can't be real." But the reply came instantly, cruelly mocking her tone. "You can't be real." She clutched her head, rocking, but her gaze never left the swelling cracks in the floor. Her heart slammed against her ribs, each beat louder than her breaths. She knew this was no hallucination. Something was trying to break through. The floor shuddered violently, sending a jolt through Lisa's legs. She scrambled to her dresser, yanking open the top drawer with trembling hands. Her fingers closed around a flashlight, the beam flickering weakly when she switched it on. She aimed it toward the cracks. For a moment, only splinters and dust stared back. Then, from the darkness below, two faint glimmers reflected her light, eyes deep and unblinking. Lisa dropped the beam, her hand trembling uncontrollably. She gasped, "Oh my God!" The eyes did not blink, did not retreat, only stared as if studying her. A guttural growl followed, vibrating through the boards. Her breath stuttered, her knees weakening beneath her. She whispered, "It's watching me." The light flickered again, the darkness swallowing its reach. Lisa stumbled back, her flashlight clattering to the floor. She groped blindly for her phone, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She pressed redial, desperate for David's voice. The line rang once before his voice cut in, urgent and uneven. David said, "Lisa, are you still there?" She gasped, "It's here." I saw its eyes. Her sobs fractured her words. Silence filled the other end for a beat, then David said, "I'm coming now. Don't move." Lisa cried, "No, don't come. It wants me, not you." The floor rumbled beneath her feet, the boards bending upward again. The guttural voice hissed, mocking her plea. "Not you. Not you." She dropped the phone, her hands flying to cover her ears. Tears streaked her pale cheeks as she screamed, "Stop copying me!" The growl beneath her turned into cruel laughter. The laughter died abruptly, replaced by silence that pressed against her chest like a vice. Lisa wiped her eyes with shaking hands, forcing herself to crawl toward the cracks. She whispered, "What do you want?" For a heartbeat, nothing answered. Then came a whisper, warped and guttural, "You." Her stomach twisted as bile rose in her throat. She slammed her fists against the boards, screaming, "Leave me alone!" The cracks widened slightly, sharp splinters tearing upward. Dust swirled into the air, choking her lungs. She coughed violently, staggering back, eyes watering. The voice returned, closer now, slithering with malice. "Hungry." The word crawled over her skin like insects. Her body shook uncontrollably as she backed against the dresser. Lisa pressed her back against the dresser, her hands gripping the wood so hard her knuckles bled white. The floor split with a deafening crack, dust and splinters bursting into the room. Her scream tore through the silence as something reached upward, a skeletal hand, long and twisted, pressing against the surface from below. Its fingers curled, nails dragging, scraping lines into the wood. Lisa's heart pounded so violently she thought it would burst. She whispered, "Stay down there, stay down there." But the hand only pushed harder, straining to break through. The guttural voice hissed her name with terrifying clarity, "Lisa." The sound rattled her bones. She stumbled sideways, crashing into the lamp, plunging the room into near darkness. The hand remained, clawing upward, relentless. Lisa backed against the dresser as the skeletal hand pressed upward, but then it froze mid-motion, retreating back beneath the floorboards. She panted, chest heaving, whispering, "Why did it stop?" The silence was heavier now, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Her phone flickered suddenly, the dead screen glowing faintly. A distorted voice spilled from the speaker. echoing her mother's trembling tone. "I told you, Lisa. This house remembers." Her eyes widened, tears burning fresh tracks. She whispered, "Nah, Mom's gone. You can't use her voice." The voice replied, guttural but unmistakably hers. She knew the truth. The floorboards beneath the dresser cracked violently, dust spilling upward. Her mother's warning thundered in her memory. "It's tied to us. It always has been." Lisa's stomach twisted with dread as realization clawed into her mind. The cracks spread further, exposing deeper darkness below. Lisa crept closer despite her fear, her flashlight trembling in her grip. She aimed it down through the broken wood, heart hammering. For a split second, her mother's face stared back at her, pale and ghostly, eyes hollow with grief. Lisa gasped, falling backward, whispering, "No, you're dead." The figure below whispered in her mother's soft tone, "Not dead, bound." Lisa's body trembled, her voice breaking, "You're not her." The face twisted, mouth stretching unnaturally wide before sinking back into the blackness. The guttural voice returned, mocking, "Bound, bound." Lisa pressed her hands to her head, rocking, her heart begging her to reject what she'd seen. But her mind whispered the truth. Her family was tied to this thing. Lisa staggered to her feet, her legs buckling, as David's voice crackled faintly back to life through her phone. "David," said Lisa, "what's happening?" She clutched the phone, sobbing. "It showed me my mom." His voice turned sharp with concern. "Lisa, your mother's gone. Don't let it trick you." She shook her head violently, screaming, "It's not a trick. She warned me, David. She knew this house was cursed." The floor beneath her quivered again, cracks spreading toward the walls. David said, "You need to leave. Get out now." But Lisa whispered, "I can't. It won't let me." Her phone flickered again, and David's voice warped into the guttural tone, mocking her, "It won't let you." Her scream tore through the silence, echoing back distorted. The dresser shook violently, rattling drawers sliding open. Papers spilled across the floor, yellowed with age. Lisa bent quickly, snatching one trembling sheet. Her eyes scanned the words. An old letter, written in her mother's hand. Her lips whispered as she read, "We cannot bury it. The bloodline keeps it alive." Her stomach churned, bile rising. She whispered, "You knew. All this time you knew." The guttural laugh seeped from the cracks, filling the room. Her hands shook, the paper crumpling in her grip. She screamed, "Why didn't you tell me?" The silence that followed pressed harder than the laugh. The boards quivered again, whispering her name in cruel imitation. "Lisa." Lisa clutched the letter to her chest, her whole body trembling. She whispered, "It's in our blood. It was never the house. It was us." Her tears dripped onto the paper, smearing the ink. The voice beneath the floor roared with cruel delight, repeating, "Us, us." She stumbled backward until her spine hit the wall, the truth sinking like poison. David's voice cut faintly through the phone again, "Desperate, Lisa, please, hold on." But she whispered into the silence, "It's been waiting for me." The floor split wider, a gaping blackness spreading toward her. From the shadows, skeletal fingers clawed upward again, reaching. She screamed as the room shook, the letter tearing in her grip. The entity had always belonged to her family, and now it wanted her. The floor ripped apart with a violent crack, forcing Lisa to stumble to her knees. She screamed, clutching the dresser for balance. From the gap below, skeletal arms stretched, scraping nails, gouging deep lines into the wood. She gasped, "You can't have me!" Her voice shook with both terror and defiance. The guttural reply rose layered like many voices at once, "You are already ours." Tears blurred her sight as the ground beneath her pulsed like a living organ, beating in rhythm with her frantic heartbeat. Dust swirled thick, choking her lungs. She coughed violently, then forced herself to shout, "You fed on them, but you won't feed on me." The laughter that followed was deafening, shaking the air around her like a storm. Lisa scrambled toward the nightstand, her hand clutching the flashlight like a weapon. She switched it on, the beam slicing through the swirling dust. For a moment, the skeletal arms recoiled into the darkness, hissing. Lisa gasped, "Light! You hate the light!" She pressed the beam downward, trembling but steady. The cracks widened, and for the first time she saw more than hands. A twisted face emerged, skeletal yet fleshed, with hollow eyes glowing faintly. Her scream tore from her throat. The face hissed, retreating slightly, but its voice echoed upward, "You are ours by blood." She sobbed, "I won't be your prey." Her shaking hands gripped the flashlight tighter as she backed against the wall. The entity's face hovered, half submerged in shadow, its mouth stretching unnaturally wide. It whispered in her mother's voice, trembling but familiar, "Join me, Lisa." Her knees buckled, pain striking through her chest as though her heart faltered. She whispered, "You're not her." The entity grinned wider, eyes glowing, voice now guttural, "But she is part of me. And now, so are you." Lisa collapsed to the floor, her body shaking violently. The flashlight rolled from her hands, its beam flickering across the warped floor. She clawed at the boards, whispering desperately, "I won't let you take me." The ground pulsed again, shadows reaching like tendrils toward her trembling body. The room shook violently, drawers crashing open, objects tumbling across the floor. Lisa clutched the torn letter in her fist, screaming, "If you're tied to my blood, then I'm tied to you." Her words echoed, trembling with defiance. The entity hissed from below, "Yes, you are ours." She tore the letter apart, scattering fragments into the air. "Then I'll end this curse tonight," she shouted, her voice cracking. Shadows swarmed upward, clawing at her arms, but she swung the flashlight wildly, slicing beams of light through the dark. The laughter rose again, cruel and hungry, vibrating the air until her bones ached. Lisa fell to her knees, her body nearly giving out, but she pressed the flashlight beam into the largest crack. The entity's twisted face shrieked, retreating violently into the shadows. The sound pierced her ears, splitting the silence like glass shattering. Dust and debris rained around her, the floorboards buckling as if the house itself would collapse. Lisa screamed through sobs, "You will not take me." The skeletal hands withdrew into the dark, leaving only silence and heavy breathing. For a moment, she believed she had won. But then the voice returned, low and venomous, "You cannot fight what you are." Her tears fell as she whispered, "I am not you." The silence that followed was unbearable, broken only by her ragged gasps. The house finally fell into silence, leaving only Lisa's ragged gasps. She collapsed against the wall, the flashlight rolling from her weak grip. She whispered, "It's over." Her voice cracked with exhaustion. Dust hung in the air, glimmering in faint moonlight. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she pressed them against her face, sobbing. The cracks on the floor remained, jagged scars that refused to close. She stared at them, dread coiling in her stomach. She whispered, "It's not gone." The silence pressed heavier, as though the house was listening. She pulled herself upright, staggering to her feet, her body trembling with every step. Her heart screamed for escape, but her mind whispered she was already bound. Lisa stumbled into the hallway, her bare feet dragging across warped boards. The air was still thick with dust, each breath cutting her throat. She whispered, "I just need to get out." Her voice trembled, desperate. She reached the front door and wrapped her fingers around the knob. It felt ice cold, burning her skin. She tried to twist it, but it refused to turn. Her eyes widened and she whispered, "Please open." The silence answered. Then the guttural voice slithered from below, "Home." Her knees buckled, her breath sharp. She whispered through clenched teeth, "I am not yours." But deep inside, she knew the house already claimed her. The doorknob rattled violently in her grip, twisting on its own. Lisa screamed, stumbling backward into the hallway. She pressed her hands to her ears as the guttural laughter filled the walls. The cracks beneath her spread wider, shadows crawling upward, slithering across her bare legs. She fell to the floor sobbing, "Stop, leave me alone." The shadows whispered her name again and again, "Lisa, Lisa." Her body shook violently as she pressed her back to the wall. She whispered, "I can't escape. I'll never escape." Her tears dripped onto the boards, soaking into the cracks as though the house drank them eagerly. Her phone buzzed suddenly on the floor, the vibration sharp against the wood. Lisa grabbed it with trembling fingers, screen lighting her pale face. David's name flashed across the display. She answered with a broken sob, "David, help me." Silence answered for a long moment. Then his voice came, but it was wrong, low, guttural, echoing her own words back, "Help me." Lisa dropped the phone as if it burned her, her chest collapsing under the weight of terror. She whispered, "It already has him." The phone buzzed again, screen glowing faintly on the floor, repeating her name in a distorted chant, "Lisa, Lisa, Lisa." Lisa dragged herself to her bedroom, clutching the doorway for support. She collapsed onto her bed, pressing a pillow against her chest like a shield. Her eyes fixed on the cracked floorboards, refusing to look away. The silence stretched, heavy, eternal. Then came the final whisper, soft and chilling, "Forever." The cracks pulsed faintly with light, like a heartbeat beneath the wood. Lisa's lips trembled as she whispered, "I'll never leave." Her eyes closed, a single tear sliding down her cheek. The house settled into silence again, but the last sound lingered, the faintest scratch beneath the boards, steady, patient, endless.